I really hope
Like-
that President Trump comes out in the next year and just like, fellas, you know, you were looking for the big announcement, and who else better to bring it to you than your own Donald Trump?
He's gonna rip off that hair and he's gonna be a green guy under.
Yeah, exactly.
Donald Trump is an alien.
You know, if there really are aliens, it has to be Donald Trump. And I think the speculation is really fun. I think it's fun to just talk through and like
Sure.
think about the possibilities. And I think that can be a very spiritually uplifting and edifying experience as you open yourself up to the realities of what could be. But we need to be very, very careful not to put demands on God and say, well, it's going to be this way. And then if that doesn't happen, sometimes people's faith is shook by that.
Welcome everybody to this week's No Bushel podcast. We're your hosts, Big Ben and the Burning Bushman. We are looking forward to getting back with you guys. Had kind of a weird off week this last week, so it's good to be back with you. Today we're going to be going into a little interesting topic discussion.
One of the most fascinating conversations you can ever have, Kendall. Kendall's not as into this as I am.
I'm very curious to see where this is going to take us. It is a fascinating discussion, and put your tinfoil hats on, and we'll talk about some alien stuff here. I think it is going to be an interesting discussion, and there's so many different variables that we really don't know the answers to a lot of things, but that's kind of what makes it interesting and fun to get into some of this.
Exactly. And in this realm of aliens, you can think whatever you want to think, and you can think other people are crazy, and that's fine. You can think that I'm crazy, because I'm one of those, like, aliens are totally real. I just totally think they are. But not everybody has to think that. You can come to whatever conclusion you want to on your own. However, evidence is mounting. And because evidence is mounting, if we don't, let me say this differently. So if you don't have a box for the potentiality of knowing that there are aliens in the world, then what does that do to your worldview when you do find out that there are aliens that come? Does that make sense? And as members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, our theology lends itself so well to the understanding that there's life outside of Earth. And so I think it kind of uniquely situates the church to be able to handle some of these things that there is a potentiality that could come forward. So have you heard of the Age of Disclosure?
Yes, but
the movie.
I have not watched it.
So it just came out a couple months ago, I think. And essentially it is interviews with dozens of the top government officials and like leaders of government programs, as high up as Marco Rubio, and it interviews basically what is known about what we will say is extraterrestrial life on Earth. Now, we don't actually know that it's extraterrestrial. So this is where there's a lot of conjecture. It's like, okay, we have seen and we have evidence, and both from individual personal experiences as well as systems and equipment that have measured all sorts of UAPs around the country. In this video, The Age of Disclosure, there's no beating around the bush. Like, these high up officials, and just go down the road, like each one of them gets on and says, we are not alone in the universe. They are here. We have retrieved crashed spaceships, and there have been aliens aboard these spaceships. There are at least 4 different types of aliens that we are aware of. Like it goes through, and like there's like, and it sounds crazy, right? Like it's this thing. And there's a big push. I know President Trump has tried to get more things disclosed. There's a reason why a lot of government people are afraid to talk about this type of thing. The stigma that's been put on it over the years. Apparently, there's even been documents that stigma that we have regarding these things was actually designed by the highest levels of government
Interesting.
to keep us from knowing about these things, that this has been at least a 70-year cover-up since the 40s that we've known about these things. But there's also a lot we don't know about these things. And the whole premise of the age of disclosure is that we've kept society in the dark. And for a lot of years, maybe that made sense because the U.S. understood that we were in an arms race, that we had retrieved crashed uh, alien technologies, and that we were trying to uh, what's the term for when you take their technology and learn from it, right? And create our own technologies based on that. That we were in this kind of arms race with other countries that were hostile to us that are also doing the same thing. And so they wanted to keep it secret so that nothing would get out. But that is kind of a reverse framework now, that there are so many people and so many good scientists that don't even want to touch the topic because it's so out there,
right?
That they're afraid that it will ruin their reputations and ruin the things, and that we're not putting our best minds into this. And so if we can disclose it, if we can have so they're trying to, I think what they're really hoping for is that in the next couple of years, President Trump will, on national television, come out and just say, we now know this is real, and just have the official, so that everybody knows what's going on.
Who knows? I mean, he may do that. It's I will say that regardless of what you think of it, aliens and whatnot, it is definitely much more prevalent of a conversation on a national scale. I mean, anytime I open up my news feed, if I even just on the top of the page, oftentimes there's an article now about some UFO or somebody else that has gone and done an interview or shared some top level security clearance information about whatever they've seen or experienced. And so it's definitely becoming more and more widely discussed, which, the more you hear things talked about, the more I think that there's got to be some level of truth to it at some varying degree, right? And I think that for me, so much of a lot of the stigma of aliens is we think of the little green man, right? And maybe that is what they are. We don't necessarily know, but if you can open your mind to that's where you mentioned where we can kind of come from an LDS perspective here that allows the theology of other humans, other people outside of the earth, outside of our current world. um, it it opens up the door for a lot of other possibilities and options. And again, I don't have the answers to any of this, but it's not out of the realm of possibility in my mind.
And it makes you ask some big questions. So, for example, in the type of being, right? So we know that we are created in the image of God. Well, what does that mean? What is the image of God? And with my understanding, as far as the types of aliens that have been reported by high up officials, that the biologics, as they sometimes call them, is that they have been humanoid form, often referred to in various colors, like some are called like silver, and oftentimes they're smaller, or like half the height of a regular human, or like different things that kind of sound weird. It's like, how can that be human if that's but if you think of things like the city of Enoch that was taken up, and we know the city of Enoch will return, like in what way would that not look like an alien invasion when the city of Enoch returns?
And that's a fair point.
I mean, like,
fair point. When Christ comes again, he's going to come out of the clouds, or however he comes down,
Mm-hmm.
I could see the argument for, some people are going to look at that and be like, there's an alien invasion. Something's coming. Some great, powerful being is coming out of the sky.
And in Mormon theology, we often talk about how in the end times, we know Christ will return. We know the gathering of Israel will take place. We know our theology teaches us that this was the only planet that Christ was born onto,
Mm-hmm.
and yet that he died for all of the spirit sons and daughters of God across how many different planets? Like infinite numbers
What
of
he says is
planets, right?
endless, right?
Endless planets.
Yeah.
And just thinking it through, if you are on this planet, which we're told is the most wicked of the planets, the only planet that would have crucified the Savior,
Mm-hmm.
and that, in my mind, we know that if you're righteous, you tend to progress a little bit faster in things, right?
Yep.
So we're probably the least progressed society of the other planets. And if you were on another planet and your theology had taught you that a savior was going to be born and was going to die and was going to sacrifice for you, do you think that they would be interested in finding out where that was?
Probably.
Like, if maybe they're all communicating and doing things like, hey, look, it's Earth. That's where Jesus was born. Like they can travel the cosmos like we travel from state to state. Like who knows? I'm not saying that any of this is true. I'm just
I,
saying there's a framework for it.
yeah, and honestly, it's kind of fun to think about. Like, that's why we can laugh and enjoy this
Exactly.
conversation because you're right. There is a framework for it, and so it allows us to have that speculation that is just genuinely interesting and fun to look at. Like what you said, like it's almost like they're on a school bus tour. Like that's where it happened. It would be very interesting to see. Uh, It also, slightly off topic here. You mentioned like we're created in the image of God. If these aliens or other peoples are um, also created in the image of God, then like we refer to them as aliens, do they refer to us as aliens as well? Like,
That's true. Or are we all just
we're
children of God and
we're like the
humans?
red Martians that we talk about on Mars. Like when they come to us, what do they talk about us as? Uh,
I would think as
I don't
far
know.
as like species is concerned, like that there would have to be the ability to procreate together if you were the same species, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yet, because we're on one Earth, and all we know are the different races that we see on Earth, and yet there's quite a bit of variability within the race. I mean, like there's, you can obviously tell. You look at something and you can tell, and racism, right? Obviously used to be a lot worse in the United States. And why was there racism? Well, at its surface, because people looked different.
Right.
Like that thing is different than me. And so it can't be the same, or it's not as good, or it's not. And so all I'm saying is if you open that creativity and that difference of race to a cosmic level,
Mm-hmm.
like there's probably a whole lot more variation in what a human can look like than just what we see on Earth,
Sure.
and still be in the image of God, would be my guess.
That just makes me think like uh, we know that your body functions a little bit differently in different areas. Like astronauts go up to space, and
Absolutely.
you've got different gravity and bone density and different things. And so,
Yeah.
like I could see some type of evolution and transformation in the human body from different areas of space that
Absolutely.
would make sense with that
Lead to differences in
argument.
body types or styles or skin colors. I mean, different types of sun, or the
Hmm.
closeness of the sun, or like there's all sorts of different things that could affect that.
So then all the aliens have superhuman strength and can jump like 10 stories because they've been used to zero gravity
Yes.
or whatever.
And this is where while we have high ranking, very reliable sources, many of them that say, okay, this stuff is real. What they know is real is that we're seeing stuff. What they don't know is where it comes from and
Right.
how it got here, and so that's
And why?
and why it's here exactly. So one thesis is that these are extraterrestrial, where they've come from another world and they're just on Earth. The other is that a lot of the activity's been in the ocean and down into the ocean, transmedium uh, craft that can go at the same speed whether they're in the air or whether they're in the ocean, which is something that's totally like we have no capability as far as we know. Now, could it be a foreign adversary that has technology that we are unaware of? Most people really discount that because it's so far advanced from anything that we have. It's like, okay, probably not the Chinese or not the Russians. Like probably just not in that realm.
It's the Koreans because we don't know anything about what goes on in there.
So this gets to another theological option, and that is when we talk about the gathering of Israel. Sometimes we talk about the lost tribes. And I feel like this is like Mormon folklore. And you know what I mean? Where like in the polar ice caps, like there's like some random society that's lost in the polar ice cap somehow, or that's from the north. Like there's supposed to be some sort of gathering from the north.
The tribe of Gad that just like went to the North Pole, and
yeah, I don't know.
That's where Santa Claus came from.
Have you ever heard this mythology? Like I feel like this is something I've heard within the church. Like, oh, when the gathering of Israel occurs, and they're just gonna come out of the ground somewhere. And
I mean, to some extent, I think I'm aware of some of that. Where I mean, I don't know that we fully understand what the gathering of Israel really is going to completely entail.
Yeah.
Like we have the general concept. We go do missionary work. We have covenant ordinance work for the dead. But I think that there's definitely going to be more to it than just what we do on our day to day right now.
So the 10th article of faith, we believe in the literal gathering of Israel and in the restoration of the 10 tribes.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was a kid, I always thought that those were the same thing. Gathering of Israel is the restoration of the 10 tribes.
Mm-hmm.
But as I've gotten older, I've really wondered, like, are those separate events? Is the gathering of Israel what we're doing right now and gathering people, and then the restoration, meaning like God took Israel and scattered them, and maybe the scattering was just on earth. Maybe it was to, like the city of Enoch. I mean, what else was the city of Enoch? I mean, the city of Enoch was taken from the world and is coming back. So, like, could other nations or other tribes of the house of Israel have been taken to other worlds even? Like, once again, this is like expansive, like thinking, and we are not in any way saying this is doctrine. We're just saying it's kind of fun to speculate on.
Major disclaimer here.
We're not official representatives of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. We just like to have fun.
Yeah. Throw some random things out there for us just to see what sticks. And you know what that makes me think of is which one is it? In one of the Marvel movies, I think it's the first Thor movie where the city's getting broken apart and then it just flies up and they have to save the city before it comes crashing down, right?
Yes.
I think it's the first one. Is that Age of Ultron? I think.
That's not the first one, I don't think.
Maybe not. I can't remember. But that's what yes, you're talking about, the city of Eden, because like maybe that's what it's gonna look like, is some huge technological thing that's bringing this giant city back down. Granted, I mean, how big was the city of Enoch at the time?
Who knows?
I mean, we don't really know the exact size of. So, I mean, I would imagine that it's probably small compared to like what we would consider like a big city today.
And yet it's probably grown since it left, right? I mean,
one would think, but again, I don't know.
Who knows? We're all speculating.
How does it grow?
But the alien things, right? So they say that, okay, we know there's this craft and stuff that we're finding in biologics of what could be extraterrestrial, but it could be in the ocean. It could be something that's been here for thousands of years or eons that has just been living simultaneously and somehow has been technologically advanced enough that they've kept themselves hidden from the rest of humanity for whatever reason. So we don't know what it is. I like the alien aspect better. I think it's cooler if they're coming from other planets. But
As long as they're nice, then it's cooler. If they're not nice, then it's not cool.
But I mean, like, what are they going to do? I mean, if we know that, so once again, when I say we know, I mean, government officials
The
are telling
conspiracies
us
are real.
the conspiracies are real, but these are very high-ranking people that say this has been going on for at
For
least since the
years.
40s.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's a long time. And if they've had that technology since the 40s, like, is it, are they really aware of us, or is it like we're ants and they're human and like they're not even looking at us? They're just like doing their own thing, and if they end up smashing us, all well. But or are they trying to protect us? So that have you heard about nuclear
Oh,
reactors and what's happened around nuclear reactors?
no,
So this so this
enlighten
is
me.
this is once again another known thing with military talking about this is they see a lot of activity with these UAPs around nuclear facilities. And in fact, they have disengaged nuclear systems that were engaged. Like they had control over some of the nuclear facility stuff. So I don't know the details of how that all occurred, but quote unquote, they somehow were controlling the nuclear reactors when
Like you're saying the aliens were controlling
yeah,
the nuclear
yeah,
reactors?
that somehow
They had been
they
turned
shut them
on or
off.
being
Yeah,
used.
they were being used for something, and they came and suddenly everything got shut off or whatever.
Interesting.
Who knows? I need more of that story, but it's interesting.
Again, this is a fascinating topic because we could just speculate forever about like what we think is out there, or and it's I don't know that as crazy as these things sound and seem, I do tend to believe that in a lot of the possibilities of this other life coming and being a part of our world, whether or not they're hiding from us or if they're actively infiltrating our society or protecting or whatever it is, I do believe that these aliens or other peoples are real. Um, but I have no clue. We just don't know, right?
And the thing that's interesting, because society has been so kind of, this is taboo, like how could that actually be?
Mm-hmm.
We can't explain it, blah blah blah. But the longer we go, I mean, more people are talking about it. Even like highly renowned scientists getting on and basically saying, from a scientific view, it totally makes sense that
Yeah.
there's life outside of Earth. And I mean, just with just the sheer size of the cosmos,
Mm-hmm.
there's
We can't
essentially
we can't
there
be the
has to be
only.
life, exactly. And if there is life, um, there are even scientists that work on like we know a lot of Newton's laws, and and there are scientists that have, as much as you can prove scientifically without creating. So, um, but on a theoretical basis,
Mm-hmm.
scientifically, they do believe there is such a thing as space time that can be warped and that can. So, for example, some of these like transmedium devices, they've been trying to explain, okay, how can it go from water to space, or from space to air to water without any change or whatnot? And
Mm-hmm.
they speculate that there's actually a shift in space time, that it's actually not going through the water
Interesting.
because it's in a different space time, if that makes sense. And I don't understand any of that. I'm not a scientist, but I've heard scientists talk about it, and it's interesting.
That takes me to another movie reference. See, that this is where all of my information comes from. It's like movies. I'm just thinking of like Interstellar.
Hmm.
You watched
Yeah,
Interstellar,
that's actually one
which
of my favorites.
it's a great movie. I love it. But just how he as he's like different timing comes back and is helping his daughter find him
Yeah,
or realize the answers to the questions, even though he's already been there before. And it's a fascinating concept.
which then also makes you think of how we speak about God, and that all things are before God. The
Hmm.
one eternal now for God. Like we have no way to wrap our limited physical brains around
Yeah.
that. But um,
That is a good point. I do think that um, I mean, science is something that is always evolving. Like we're always learning more, and I actually personally I think that God is very much a God of science, and there are specific laws um, that He just understands. We have no clue how to even comprehend that allows Him to do what He does and to create and to be eternal. Because if you can wrap your mind around eternity, which is impossible to really do, but
Hmm.
he is an eternal God. And so I mean, again, going back to the interstellar reference, like if if just that kind of concept can be true, where he can what feels like go back in time, but it's not actually going back in time, but it's affecting
Hmm.
the past, which is also the present, but also the future. Like that in and of itself is kind of the definition of eternal, right? Is the past, present, and future all wrapped up into one.
Yeah,
And I think God has a way of using science and time and space to do what He does. I suppose.
is in perfect unity and able to use. So this also lines up perfectly with Mormon theology,
Mm-hmm.
because most of the religious Christian world believes in what we call creation ex nihilo. You ever heard of that term?
Yeah.
Which is basically that there was God and all things were created by God,
Mm-hmm.
which is actually different in the LDS theology in that everything was not created. There was matter, like matter
It was
existed, but
organized.
it was organized. The world was organized in the world, and people are even our bodies of the dust of the earth. Um, that these things were organized, not created out of nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And um, and when you have that understanding, it just kind of goes in line with this that God is not. He is that God and nature, like nature's laws, like He's in perfect harmony with nature. It's not that and science, like we have a very limited understanding of science, and God knows everything, and has mastered everything to know. We can't understand or fathom that, but it's a very different approach to God than what a lot of
Mm-hmm.
modern Christianity views God as.
And again, you mentioned our our belief is that God didn't just create, but he organized because there was matter unorganized. That's what the
Hmm.
scriptures say. He saw matter unorganized, and he created the earth and the water and the animals and whatnot. So he took that matter and then created something out of it. Um, and again, that lends itself to the whole idea of eternal. Like we are all eternal beings. Um, at our core, that's where our spirits, our souls
Hmm.
come from, is some type of eternal matter, and that God had was able to create mold into who we are today.
And ultimately, yeah, that, and once again, like these concepts, the eternity, the eternality, is that a word?
Yeah, I just created a new word, but I like it.
The eternalness of the human soul,
The
right? So
eternality and the eternalness.
you're welcome. I'm sorry, I'm not very good with language, but um, the eternal nature of the human spirit,
Yeah.
and this is one of those realms of Latter Day Saint theology that is a little bit open to speculation and like discussion about, okay, like we talk about intelligences and being spirit children of heavenly parents, and then getting physical bodies, and like there's a shift in progression over time. And it's like, okay, is it an intelligence? Was that just us as spirit children, or is that actually a state before being spirit children, or is there,
Right.
like, we don't necessarily know, but that we're all progressing in our ability and in our um, really, I like that, the creative ability to create and to um, put into effect the laws of nature in a way that
Hmm.
are ultimately unifying and synchronous and uh, powerful.
Yeah. For sure. And that's what. So to go a little bit more into like a spiritual Christ-centered realm here for just a minute. Um, that concept, the concept of the eternal nature of God and the eternal nature of the atonement, when you can start to wrap your mind around how that Christ's atonement, his suffering and death on the cross and resurrection is an eternal thing. That's why his suffering then can affect me now, because his atonement is it didn't just happen; it is currently happening.
And it affected those before it happened, like it affected us after.
Exactly.
Right? Infinite, and
which is still even kind of understanding that is still mind-boggling in how it works, and but it for me has always given me some peace and a greater understanding of just the a greater understanding of how much I don't understand, but also the enormity of how um, just how much Christ loves us and his overall power. You said power earlier, and that's kind of what made me think of that his atonement, his suffering and crucifixion and resurrection is an eternal thing. So it is actually happening as we speak, and it will continue to happen. That's how we are able to repent, because it's something that he's done that affects me now and will continue to affect me in the future. And that's kind of a cool concept.
Absolutely.
That I don't know that we always think about in that particular way. That space-time continuum conundrum, whatever you want to call it.
It's so hard for us to understand. Just our brains are limited in what we can understand, and we only understand what we experience. And we know that time is allotted only unto man. And so, these things are beyond what we can fully understand. And yet there's still this conceptual nature. I mean, even infinite. So like this seems like this one has always gotten me. So we talk about infinity, right? Going on forever and ever and ever and ever. And that's impossible to fathom. But then you can take an inch, 1 inch. How many times can you divide that inch?
Yeah, infinity.
Infinitely. So it's like, wait, what? How does that work? It can be as big and you can get as small. Yeah.
It just boggles your mind.
It does.
I think that one thing that I'll mention on this is that some detractors of God or religion in general can point to science and say, well, if your God was truly all knowing and all powerful, then he wouldn't need science to be able to do these things. If and I think that there's a fair argument to be had there. I think that I can understand where people are coming from. But if you change your perspective into understanding that God is, like you said earlier, mastering all of these things. He is all powerful, all knowing, and knows all of the scientific laws and rules and principles, and knows how to use all of them at his
for the perfect good.
Exactly. Then it opens it up rather than saying, well, he's confined to what science allows him to do. Because if what we believe is that if God were to, because he could do anything, he could go and commit a sin if he wanted to. He's not going to, because he's God, and he's, like you said, choosing to be good. And if he chose to break one of those laws, scientific or spiritual, he would cease to become God. And that's the amazing part of where he comes from.
Yeah, and while science is limiting to us, it's not to him. It's
right.
It's expansive,
which makes me very excited to get through this life and just learn so much more. Because again, that's something I look forward to is the learning progressive nature of after this life. Because one thing we believe is that we're going to continue learning and understanding and becoming more like him. And as we do that, we will get the answers that we're looking for Are the aliens real? How do we teleport?
So in this discussion, it might be important also to specify that there's lots of things in life that we can get excited about that are fun and that are entertaining, but then there comes a time when we settle into what we believe or what is
Right.
that, like, it's this way, right? And sometimes we settle things before we should. So like in the alien realm, or like the gathering of Israel realm, it's like, oh, this is what the second coming is going to look like. We're going to have the city of Enoch's going to come in a spaceship. We're going to see lots of other aliens. The whole world's going to go crazy, and like you could like plan it out in your mind, like, and just really believe like this is the way that it's going to happen. And A, B, C, D, you line it up, and like, yes, this is definitely going to happen. It's kind of like the before Christ came, it's like he's going to be this military leader, and he's going to be this like they put him into boxes of like, this is what it's going to look like. This is what the second coming is going to look like. This is going to be, whatever it is that you speculate about. And I think the speculation is really fun. I think it's fun to just talk through and like think about the possibilities. And I think that can be a very spiritually uplifting and edifying experience as you open yourself up to the realities of what could be. But we need to be very, very careful not to put demands on God and say, well, it's going to be this way. And then if that doesn't happen, sometimes people's faith is shook by that. And even on a smaller spiritual level, sometimes people will receive a spiritual prompting, or like a premonition, or something, revelation, and they think. So, for example, I could receive a revelation that so and so should serve in a certain calling, and then I put my own assumptions on top of that. So, okay, this person's supposed to serve there. Oh man, they're going to be so good for this. They're going to be able to do this and this and this, and this is going to lead to this, and it's going to be like a fantastic outcome. Right. And then you call them to that calling, and they get sick a month later, and you have to release them, and you're like, well, why did I call them to the calling in the first place? And then you start doubting, like, well, was that even revelation when I got that? Was it?
Do I even know what the Spirit's like?
Know what the Spirit's like, right? And that's what I'm saying is, like, we sometimes put an outcome into our speculation and our revelation and our spiritual promptings, and especially when we're talking about aliens and kind of bigger things like that. Like, enjoy the speculation, but don't tie yourself down to one way of what it's going to be. Like, if aliens aren't real, whatever.
Yeah. Well, I think that's important, because if none of this turns to be true, does it actually matter in the grand scheme of things? Like, no. Are you and I going to hell or heaven because aliens are real? No, like that has no bearing on our eternal progression and outcomes. But it's fun to talk about, and maybe we'll be sitting next to a couple of aliens in heaven, or maybe.
I really hope that President Trump comes out in the next year and just like, fellas, you were looking for the big announcement, and who else better to bring it to you than your own Donald Trump?
He's going to rip off that hair, and he's going to be a green guy under.
Yeah, exactly.
Donald Trump is an alien.
If there really are aliens, it has to be Donald Trump, because, I mean, his ego, like, if you were him and you had his ego, like, you would want to be the guy who brought that to the world, right? Yeah. I mean, like, you'll go down in history as the president who finally announced.
Now we're really going down a hole here.
Sorry.
Oh, that's funny, though. No, it's yeah, that's funny.
Sorry for my terrible Trump accent too. I'm not very good at the Trump.
I love hearing. You didn't have the fingers out of the pursed lips.
I love people that are really good at it, but I'm really not.
Oh, well, this has been a fascinating discussion. It's been
food for thought, guys.
Been fun.
And this is the No Bushel podcast, because we don't want to hide a light. Lots of people like to talk about this. Some people may not. Hopefully, if you didn't like talking about this, you didn't listen to the end. But for those that do,
good on you, and share it with the people around you. And spread the light of the aliens, I guess. But
something to that effect.
we're glad you joined us today for some kind of shenanigans and fun, just concepts and ideas. Hopefully we'll come up with something good for this next week as well. But
maybe more controversial than aliens.
Not quite as conspiratorial.
Yeah, maybe not.
Controversy.
Anyway, have a wonderful day. This is
the No Bushel Podcast.